Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much to the President of the Africa Society at Cambridge University, to the President of the University, the organizers of this wonderful program. My name is Arikana. I'm the former African Union Ambassador to the United States, and now the founder and president of the African Diaspora Development Institute. I thank you for having me today. I bring you greetings from the great country of Zimbabwe in our beautiful continent of Africa. I want to thank all of you young people for standing up and organizing and putting a spotlight on our beloved continent of Africa. As you all are aware, our beloved continent is under siege. You've asked me today to talk about the role that our young people in Africa can play in building the Africa that we want. If our children are going to succeed at being the leaders, the champions, and the drivers of Africa's development, they must first and foremost understand how Africa got to be where Africa is today. They must first and foremost understand that as Africans, as people of African descent around the world, we also are victims of some serious major brainwashing. The brainwashing that has made it very difficult for us to take the reins, stand up and push back against some of the most egregious abuses any race could sustain. We are unable to fight back against all these major powers that have put in place geopolitical strategies that are designed to keep Africa and her children, not only in Africa, but around the globe, under siege. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that the richest continent on earth is the poorest continent on earth. Allow me to highlight some of the geopolitical situations, geopolitical systems that are in place today and have been in existence for centuries that will make it mission impossible for us to truly take our place on the world stage, for us to truly be on the driver's seat of our beloved continent. I like to call upon what I call line number one. Line number one that is keeping us and making it impossible for those in leadership positions, no matter how low the leadership level is, to stand up, push back, and speak truth to power. What I consider line number one, if our children of Africa, if our youth are to take on the challenges of building the Africa that we want, they must understand that when we face issues, when we're trying to understand why we cannot move forward, the answer is not very far away. It's the image in the mirror. The image in the mirror is who you need to look at and ask some very important questions. Why do I think the way I do? Why do I behave in the manner that I do? Well, let me help you go through the journey of the genesis as to why we as Africans, and if you notice, I'm trying very hard to avoid using the word black, and I'll tell you why. Before the colonizers came to Africa, before the Europeans came to Africa, we were not called black. They were not white either. So they came to Africa in the name of introducing education, in the name of introducing civilization. So they took us to school and they taught us about the different colors, green, yellow, blue, black, white, orange. But out of all the array of colors that they taught us, they focused on two colors, black and white. They assigned attributes to the color black. Everything bad and undesirable was black. They even continued to add on subliminal messages messages that are designed to just automatically, as our children are being born, they automatically know that they are undesirable. So that was the black color. Then they picked up the color white and also assigned it some attributes: purity, clean, desirable. And then they said, let's go to church. They spoke to us about a place called hell. They said, oh, in hell, there's a thing called devil, which is black. And by the way, you Africans are black like the devil. And we said, okay. Then they said, oh, by the way, there's a place called heaven. And they're angels, beautiful, desirable. They do everything wonderful. We must all aspire to be like the angels. And by the way, we too, while we may not look like the color white that we just told you about in school, never mind that, we're like the angels. And we said, okay. That was centuries ago. We have never questioned why there were no attributes given to other people who look brown. In the United States, why is it that Chinese are not called brown Americans? Oh, the emphasis is on black and white, because the whole idea is to promote white supremacy from a very deep-rooted subconscious level and in a very subliminal messaging way. Centuries ago, my brothers and sisters, we were taught that we are black like the devil and that our color is undesirable. And they told us they were white even though they didn't look white. What a lie. I've never seen a person who looks white like a white sheet of paper. Why haven't we questioned it? Subliminal messaging that is designed to promote white supremacy at a very deep level. Who has died and gone to heaven and seen a white angel? I don't blend in with my little black dress. I don't blend in with my little black shoes. Who has died and gone to hell and seen a black devil? It is a figment of their imagination designed to continue to propagate white supremacy from one generation after another. How long are we going to continue to believe in this lie? It is precisely this lie that is making it difficult for us as Africans to stand up against the blatant abuses that are being meted to our beloved continent every day, to stand up against the abuses that are being meted to us as the people of African descent, no matter where you see us. May I say, moving forward, think about whether or not you want to continue to be called black. Because whenever you accept that designation as black, you are accepting all the attributes they assigned to the color black. They're Caucasians. Understand the genesis of white versus black. It was designed to promote white supremacy. Ask yourself, why is it that as we speak today, I'm speaking to you from Zimbabwe? Our ancestors, Mbuyane and Sekuru Kaguvi, their heads are still sitting in jars, in basements in the United Kingdom. This is 2021. Centuries ago, they murdered our ancestors. They took their remains. And to this day, they still refuse to bring them back. Where is the Minister of Culture? Where is the Minister of Foreign Affairs? Why aren't they standing up and saying, United Kingdom, we will not engage you until this egregious wrong is righted? 1980, President Mugabe, that was one of the first things he did. Demand the remains of our ancestors. By the way, it's not just Zimbabwe. It's all countries that were under colonization. Our ancestors are littering their basements throughout Europe. Our artifacts are littering basements throughout Europe. They stole our culture. They displayed beautifully in their museums in Europe. And we Africans, we go to Europe and we line up nicely displayed, stolen from Benin Kingdom, and we pay to see what belongs to us. How long do you think a finger of a British soldier lasts in Zimbabwe? How long do you think a toe of a German soldier lasts in Namibia? They would storm into those countries, kill thousands of people just to recover that one toe. And when it comes to Africa, well, you all are Africans. Zimbabwe has been trying to get its remains of its ancestors since 1980. 2020, they said, okay, we'll give you back your remains. To this day, those remains are yet to come. Who are these people? How do they go to sleep every day? Why on earth are you holding on to our ancestors? It is absolutely mind-boggling. But I'll tell you what. If we as Africans would say, Europe, we are no longer going to engage you until this right is righted, those remains will be back in no time. If every country is to say, the British, the Germans, the Italians, the French, whatever country it is, we have 7 days for your citizens, for you to bring our artifacts back, for you to right this wrong, to bring our ancestors for proper burial. You have 7 days to do so. Otherwise, all your citizens in our countries, they got 48 hours to get out. Let's see how quickly those remains would come back. But it's keeping us from doing that. It goes back to the line number one. As Africans, we are defeated even before the conversations begin. Our ministers go to have meetings. They sit across from a white person, which I'm trying to avoid using that designation. They're Caucasians. Their knees buckle in because they automatically feel inferior. If we are to fight and defend our Africa, we must have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror and understand that you are one of the most beautiful person God ever created on earth, that you are just as intelligent and as beautiful as anybody else, and that no one should ever make us as Africans feel inferior. We're not inferior. In fact, if the truth be told, we as Africans are the only ones with a dominant gene on earth, plain and simple, and that is genetics 101. Take it or leave it. We are indestructible. The ones who gave birth to humanity, why are we being treated as fifth-class citizens? Without the black woman, there would not be humanity as we know it. And that is the fact. If all young people of today were to decide to mate with anyone, all black people, all Africans, all people of African descent were to decide to mate with non-black people, give it 2-3 generations, the world will be black, and that is the truth. So if you want to talk about who is who, let's remind the world that as Africans, we gave birth to humanity. We told the world what it means to be civilized. The world must respect Africa and her children because we deserve to be placed on the tallest pedestal. For humanity belongs to us. Without us, they wouldn't be. That's line number one, that our children must understand first and foremost if they're going to be properly equipped to fight and defend our Africa. There are other geopolitical issues that we must also understand. The Bretton Woods institutions, when they were created in 1945, they were not created so Africa can prosper. They were created so their success is based on the failure of African nations and other developing nations. Why is it that the average African country, at a minimum, a third of their GDP goes to World Bank in loan repayment? As we speak in Harare, $6.5 billion they go to the World Bank every year in loan repayment out of a GDP of the country of 11 billion. 11 billion GDP, the country of Zimbabwe, 6.5 goes to loan repayment. Hello. How is this country supposed to survive? And the same is true in many African countries. Some of the loans, they go back to colonization. Countries that have never defaulted on their loan repayments, the rating agencies give them poor rating so they can justify give them ridiculous interest rates anywhere from 10 to 20%. Countries like the United States that do not need the break, they can get their loans sometimes at 0 interest rate. What are our ministers of finance doing? They go to the United States twice a year. They go to the World Bank twice a year. What are they talking about? Why aren't they challenging these abuses? It goes back to line number 1, where we are defeated before the game even begins. Let's look at the World Trade Organization. Africa has the largest arable land on earth. Over 65% of our land is arable. Why is it that we cannot add value to our natural resources? It goes back to the policies that were put in place through the World Trade Organization. We are designed to provide the natural resources, the raw materials, so we can create jobs for the Europeans and now the East. And then we get the goods back. So we're now reduced to being consumers of our own value-added products. There's something terribly wrong with this picture. Why aren't the ministers of trade coming together collectively and speaking with one voice, say this has got to stop? It's because we are fighting as individual little bitty countries. How does Togo get in the same boxing ring with China? How does Congo Brazzaville go into the same boxing ring with the United States? It's wrong, and it's blatant, and it's intentional. We're broken up into the tiny little countries, so precisely we can continue to fight with the pinky little finger rather than coming together and fighting with an entire fist, so we can really throw a sucker punch. It's up to you, the young people, to understand what is really going on in Africa. For far too long, we have been thrown a shiny object and we've run after the shiny object and not realizing that in the process, we're running away from where the real issues are and where we need to pay attention if we are to reclaim the driver's seat of the development of our beloved continent. It is an uphill battle. The challenges are huge. The mountain is steep. But I can tell you one thing. When we unite, when we come together and speak with one voice, and I get a really big, nice smile on my face and I feel warm and fuzzy, when I can remember of this young man in Mali who took down a French drone with a slingshot. I want to remind the West that while we may have been asleep for far too long, there are millions of young men in Africa with slingshots. We will take you down. But for us to take them down, we must unite. There is no two ways about it. We must speak with one voice. That means you, each and every one of us. Let's have a conversation with the image in the mirror. I use a very rudimentary example of simple observations that I make as I travel. If it's a group, a conference, if there are Chinese in the room during a break, the Chinese will group together and they start talking and strategizing about the next session. White people will group together. They start strategizing. If they are Indians, they'll group together. And then look at us Africans. Look at us people of African descent. What do? We're busy trying to fit in with everybody else. It's because of that self-hate. It's because of that lack of belief in ourselves. We think our relevance is more important when we attach ourselves with others who don't look like us. The disease is deep. So as we strategize on how our youth can take over the future of Africa, we as elders, we have a responsibility to make sure that we leave them strong shoulders for them to stand on. We need to leave our children well-informed and equipped with knowledge about what is really going on. Know who your enemy is if you are going to war. Got to come up with a strategy. What's going on in the world, it is a game that we must understand the rules of engagement. If we are going to defeat the enemies that are besieging our beloved continent, we must know and understand our continent and what is really going on. And each and every one of you as students at this famous University of Cambridge, to whom much is given, much is expected. You have a responsibility to wake up. Now, don't blame your friends who don't look like you. They don't know. They too have been lied to. They're being raised in a world that says, oh, we're going to Africa to civilize them. What they don't tell you is that they stole the civilization from Africa to Europe, came back and started giving it back to us like it was their own. Remind them that that is a lie. Tell them the truth, that Africa is not a diseased and dying continent. They too, the children of the Caucasians of today, they have been lied to. They're not being told the truth. So you have a responsibility, African students at Cambridge, to educate your colleagues and tell them the truth and nothing but the truth. Invite them to come to Africa and see for yourself this amazing Garden of Eden, I call it. That is Africa, the Africa that people must see. We ask all of you to take off your jaundiced eyes, your spectacles that need to be readjusted. You need to see Africa with 2020 vision. The continent that has it all. The continent that every single country outside Africa, there is not a single strategic planning session that does not start with Africa, because everything they need is and can be found in Africa. And that is the fact. Now, when our children, you young people, are now armed with knowledge, you're armed with the realization that you got your elders who are strong shoulders, backing you, ready to defend you, ready to protect you. We want you to face the world, standing up tall. Every step that you take, you must know that you own this earth, because you do. The children of Africa, in the diaspora and around the world, and in Africa as well, stand up, push back, believe in yourself. You should never ever accept that you are inferior to anyone, because you, as a woman, as an African woman, as a woman of African descent, you are the mother of humanity. And you, as an African man, a man of African descent, you are the father of humanity. Stand up on the tallest mountain and proclaim to the world who you are: the proud, the beautiful, intelligent, sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible Africa. That's who you are.